Hey everybody, it is tea time with the diva. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, because we're going to get into it. This tea time is dedicated to Diddy. So now they got a new issued subpoena, okay? They want dirt from this Miami hotel, and they want dirt from 2008 to the present. First of all, I never knew that any business had to retain documentation for that long. It's 2024. You still have to have documentation from 2008, but I guess so. In addition to that, I guess it is so because in a related slash unrelated case, Keefe D is currently behind bars waiting to go on trial for the unaliving of Tupac Shakur. And they said, and that case is over decades old, they said that they have hotel documents that put Keefe D at the scene of the crime, even though Keefe D is 10 toes down that he was not there, and that is the reason why he could have never unalived Tupac Shakur. So let's get back to Diddy's case. They've been waiting to find some way, somehow, to bring about criminal charges against Diddy. Now, let me just give you some food for thought, and let's not get it twisted. So please don't come in my comments talking about, oh, you want to see a monster get away with a crime. No, I do not. Okay. So, but I'm just going to give you some food for thought. Food for thought. Many people low key have been comparing the Diddy situation to the Playboy Mansion. Okay. So many have said that, similar situations that people are accusing Diddy of happened in the Playboy Mansion for decades under Hugh Hefner's watch. They said there was allegedly a lot of STDs that passed around at that mansion. They said it was a lot of unwanted pregnancies that passed around, that went around at that mansion. They said there were a lot of people who got touched and didn't want to get touched at the Playboy Mansion. You get it. Fill in the blanks. They're saying that under Hugh Hefner's watch, a lot of stuff that Diddy is being accused of happened in the mansion. But I guess since the mansion had a coveted magazine, Playboy magazine, and people was waiting to see the Playboy of the year, that anything that went on in that mansion stayed in that mansion. But unfortunately for Diddy, he don't look like Hugh Hefner. So now his sins and his crimes are coming back to bite him in the booty. Now, listen, Diddy, the reason why, and I told y'all this before, and I stand 10 toes down on it, the trouble they're having with bringing criminal charges against Diddy is because Diddy never physically put his hands on said crime. What do I mean by that? So Diddy had his FO parties, and he always had people underneath him doing the deed for him. So let me go into that a little further. So it's Diddy, and let's just say it's Diva. And Cassie told us this in her own lawsuit. He said, Diva, we're going to have an FO party tonight. You go get the workers. You go get the people. I want the people to look like this. I want this many people. And maybe allegedly he said, and here go the money. You pay them. So before they indict Diddy, they probably have to give 5 to 6 people immunity, ask those 5 to 6 people to turn against Diddy, and then maybe they can indict Diddy. But they can't indict him directly because him and his lawyers will say, well, where's your proof that I paid that worker? Where's your proof that I brought that worker across state lines? No, you can prove maybe that somebody that's connected to me in my camp did it, but just like they saying I did it, I'm going to deny that I did it. So Cassie in her own lawsuit said that she had to gather the folk for the FO parties. Even Little Rodney, and this is as recent as 2023, in his lawsuit, he said that he went to, I forgot what state they was in, whatever. He told Little Rodney, go to the club, put on the bad boy cap. They're going to know that I'm in town, and go get the workers. So the struggle is real with the FBI and everybody else on indicting Diddy, because although the dotted line may lead back to him, The actual crimes were committed by the people that said Diddy told them to do X, Y, Z. So do we give 100 people immunity just to lock up Diddy? I don't know what they're going to do. But let's get into this story. Hold on one second. So Diddy, a grand jury is digging for dirt in Miami. A new subpoena is issued. The federal authorities investigating Diddy to possibly get a criminal indictment against the music mogul are chugging along, issuing a new grand jury subpoena related to a hotel in Florida. According to new legal docs obtained by TMZ, federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York got a subpoena requiring a fancy hotel to cough up documents and evidence related to Diddy. Now listen, Daphne Joy, unfortunately for her, her name is listed in this subpoena, right? So let me back up and also say this. As far back as we know, Diddy always had somebody else doing some dirty deeds for him, allegedly. So remember the case with Shine in the nightclub and someone being pow, this, that, and the other. The claim was at the time that J-Lo, Jenny from the Block, she was holding the pow in her purse. And allegedly, when Diddy said he needed it, she passed it along. Allegedly. So y'all get my point. His track record is that 9 times out of 10, he got someone else to do the illegal activity for him. So when you go to incriminate him, when you go to get a arrest warrant against him, you have to say to yourself, okay, do I give Daphne Joy this one, and that one immunity just so I can lock this monster up? I don't know what they're going to do. So Diddy and his ex, Daphne Joy, are both named in the subpoena. The subpoena calls for the hotel to hand over reservation records involving Diddy, Daphne, and other associates of Bad Boy Entertainment CEO. So I bet you in this particular case, the reason why Daphne Joy name is named in the subpoena is because probably when they go to get these records, her name is going to be on the hotel reservation. It's going to be money that she probably even paid them in cash. It's going to be messy. So Daphne Joy is probably going to be their little pawn that they use as their scapegoat, telling her, listen, you got a young son. We need you. We need you to turn against Diddy, tell us everything you know so that we can indict him, so that we can bring criminal charges against him. So unfortunately for Daphne Joy, this is going to be a rough road ahead of her, because I'm sure 100% since she is named in this subpoena, they're going to use her to come after Diddy. The subpoena specifies the period from January 1, 2008 to the present, asking for check-in and check-out dates, room numbers, guest preferences and requests, and billing information, including room service. Federal prosecutors also requested email and mailing addresses and phone numbers, along with forms of payment such as cash and credit cards. Okay, so let's get into this and hear TMZ give their information on this particular situation.
In the Diddy investigation, and it could lead to really serious criminal charges against this disgraced mogul.
Which would be the very first criminal charges that Diddy has faced in all of this that has been going on for the last few months. And it is looking like the feds are really, so you understand, they don't convene a grand jury until they've got their ducks in a row. So this means, if you're Diddy, this means that they at least have spoken to enough people that they believe they have enough evidence for an indictment. Now, we'll see whether they do.
I should say that there is another scenario, and we're going to be talking to a guy who knows his stuff in this area. But there's another scenario. There's such a thing as an investigative grand jury, where what they do is they want to see what the evidence is, but they can't necessarily call all the witnesses they want because the witnesses don't have to cooperate with prosecutors.
Right.
So what they do in an investigative grand jury is they subpoena them, and they're required to talk, and then the prosecutors can use the information to say, do we have a charge here or not, or do we want to go forward? So that's the other way of looking at this.
There was a report in CNN, though, that says that they have, they being the federal prosecutors, have interviewed several witnesses, that they have interviewed several witnesses in preparation for this grand jury, which makes me feel like they are very far down the road in their investigation.
Yeah, they interviewed tons of people. Tons of people. But again, if those people that they interview and are telling the truth, they're probably all going to have to say, well, I actually went there and did it, but he told me to. He made me. I felt I had to. I was working for him, right? And then I highly doubt, but I could be dead wrong. I highly doubt that these were credit card transactions. And if they were credit card transactions, I promise you this, it was probably under the company name, the entertainment name. And again, you're going to have trouble tying that directly back to Diddy and Diddy only. Let's continue.
I think this is probably why they're doing it. They will bring in some of the accusers who have already come forward publicly. They may bring in others that haven't, but I would be stunned if Cassie is not among the witnesses who testify here.
Right.
I mean, she would seem to be a central figure in this grand jury probe.
Yeah, I think about it. There's Cassie, who you're right would be a central figure. There are 7 other lawsuits besides Cassie's where people have made allegations. Almost anyone in those lawsuits would be.
They may call all of them.
Would be, yeah.
They may call all of those people.
I mean, as you stated, Harvey, I mean, our law enforcement sources have confirmed that a grand jury has been convened in the case. Witnesses and accusers will be testifying for the grand jury, and other evidence will be presented. Currently, according to our sources, Diddy is being investigated by the feds for sex trafficking, narcotics trafficking, and firearms offenses. As you said, this could all lead to a potential criminal indictment that could send Diddy to prison for a very long time. So these are potentially very serious charges that Diddy faces.
Yep. The question, where are the feds right now in the investigation? What are the chances that this grand jury will hand down an indictment? And what does it mean for Diddy?
Someone who has been through this process as a former federal prosecutor, Andrew Cherkasky. He is joining us right now just to talk about what is going on at the Southern District of New York as they prepare for this grand jury. Andrew, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thank you. And things couldn't be getting worse for Diddy here. I think this is a turn of events that is essentially a nightmare scenario for him. So a lot to unpack here.
Why don't we start with why did the prosecutors choose a grand jury rather than just outright charging him?
Well, a grand jury has an important function in a federal criminal case in essentially a requirement to have this grand jury meet in order to vote to have a indictment on many of these charges. And so they are going to essentially take evidence and through that evidence either decide to indict or return what's called a no bill, which essentially says that there wasn't enough evidence. I have almost never seen a federal prosecutor bring a case to a grand jury and that result in a no bill. So they say that it's as easy as anything that can be done in the law. And when federal prosecutors get themselves involved in a grand jury, the expectation overwhelmingly is that there will be an indictment.
Diddy's team is not there. They don't have any say.
They can't be there.
They're not there. And the grand jurors are kept very secret. But once the indictment, if they go forward, and as you say, they normally do get an indictment, after that is done, what's the next step for them? And do you anticipate, from your knowledge in putting together these cases, Cassie has to be someone that they want to bring in? If not, what reason would they have to not have Cassie sit for the grand jury?
Well, see, so the grand jury itself is technically non-adversarial, although it's highly biased because, like you said, Diddy and his team are not allowed to be there. Now, he is invited generally to make a statement, although that almost never happens. You take your right to remain silent and you keep quiet at the grand jury phase. I would think that anybody who's going to be looked at as a true victim, a named victim in this case, will testify or provide some sort of statement to the grand jury. The one outlying kind of consideration here is that the feds have to bring charges that are federally outlawed as opposed to state offenses. And so in order to do that, they're going to have to draw some sort of connection to an interstate commerce, some sort of human trafficking that went from state to state, some sort of financial crime that crossed state.
So that's why they need the hotel records, right? They need to tie him to this thing. So the hotel records, who booked the hotel, who reserved the room, who was paying for room service, what credit card was put down on the thing, or did they pay all cash? And if so, who gave the cash? And then that's why they want this surveillance, footage or whatever the case may be. This is going to be interesting. Let's continue to listen.
State borders, or some sort of gun or drug offense that cross state borders. So that could limit the victim pool, so to say, to a more narrow group of folks. But I think that's the biggest hurdle the feds are going to have to get over here is making it a federal case as opposed to things like a state case, like what we saw in that domestic violence video. With Cassie.
That's what I want to get into right now, because the domestic violence video, the statute of limitations is run on that. But that is squarely a state case, a state of California. That's not going to happen because of the statute. However, what I'm wondering is this. Do you think prosecutors are going to try and show that to grand jurors because it is so incendiary that it would almost make it impossible not to indict him, even though it's a state case? Do you think they're going to try to squeeze that in? Because that is something that's hard to look past.
Well, I think they'll absolutely try to use it both in a grand jury and if this moves forward to a trial in some sort of way. Now, you guys know that a evidence that is not charged, other wrongs, crimes, or acts are typically not admissible in order to prove the propensity or the penchant for somebody to commit future or past acts. Exactly. But you can use those uncharged acts to prove some sort of larger motive, a modus operandi, or a general intent.
Now, let me say this. Do I think 100% they're bringing Cassie in on this and she's going to help prove a lot against him? Absolutely. But again, what they need is some type of substantial evidence that proves that, these people were coerced. These people were taken across state lines. That's what the sex trafficking is, right? These people felt threatened. So that's why they talked about, were there illegal weapons there, or, so forth and so on. In these hotel rooms, what actually all went on when these parties were happening that'll help prove that these wasn't just all consensual adults doing what they wanted to do. They were forced somehow.
General demeanor in terms of how he may have behaved around certain individuals. So I think that they're going to make strenuous arguments for that to be considered at just about every stage in this case, assuming they have a loop to bring Cassie into this case, remembering, of course, that it has to be a federally based offense, as opposed to the potential that Cassie is excluded from this case because perhaps it was only state-based offenses. That's kind of the big unknown that I have at this point.
Andrew, I don't know if this is too tentative a connection. In that video, she's leaving the hotel. And what we don't know yet, because she didn't even explain this in her lawsuit, why she was fleeing the hotel. She just described the fact that he went after her, but she did say that one of these freak-off sex parties had gone on the night before. Now, that would be something I think the feds would be interested in. So
if there were people that went across state lines.
Right, if there were people that went across state lines, is that a way that they could get that video relevant to the case that they're presenting?
The closer that video and the actions that we see in that video are connected to a charged crime, the more likely that's coming in. And so if you take kind of the word that the night before, within hours of that event, there was one of these freak-offs, we've heard other information that these freak-offs involved prostitutes or involved drugs, potentially even guns being present. Now we start to see that they might be able to draw a connection to a federal crime there. So if he had paid somebody, perhaps flown them in, and that's what we're seeing in some of these other allegations, is that he was flying people from one location to the next in order to commit future acts such as sexual assault or other types of crimes. So they have to draw that video as close as they can to other crimes that are actually charged to give them the greatest possibility to be able to use that.
What if Cassie is, if there is an indictment and Cassie is listed as a unindicted co-conspirator because she may have participated, she was with Diddy for many, many years. She may have participated in some of these alleged crimes, and you know, she might have an immunity deal. I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point to make, the idea that she was around a lot of this over many years. Now, reading into her past lawsuit and understanding her case as we do at this point, I think that she would have a strong defense to say that she was essentially compelled to be in that position, so less involved as a co-conspirator or as an accomplice to these other crimes. That could be something the defense makes a big deal of, but I have no doubt she'll have her lawyers protect her as best as possible.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Ooh, it's loaded. It's a lot of information. So prosecutors further asked for computer IP addresses and logins for the individuals, as well as copies of their identifications and vehicle information. What's more, the feds inquired about surveillance footage at the hotel. The new subpoena was issued only a couple weeks ago, so it looks like the authorities are still hard at work on the Diddy probe, okay? As we reported in March, Homeland Security, so it's March, Homeland Security raided his homes. So you got April, May, June, July, and now we're at the end of August. We got 5 months later. That tells you right there, just that time frame, the struggle they're having, right? No way the feds want to raid somebody's home today and still 5 to 6 months or a year later have not filed any criminal charges against him. If you go back to the Keefe D case, one day they raided his home, the next day pretty much they arrested him, right? Because they had all the evidence that they needed. So I don't doubt they have evidence. My thing is that the evidence they have, they can't tie it directly back to Diddy to bring any criminal charges, and that's why they are still digging, right? So in Miami and Los Angeles, during an ongoing investigation into the record exec for that's Little Rodney's case for alleged sex and narcotics trafficking. TMZ also confirmed a federal grand jury was convened and witnesses were notified they could be called to testify in the Southern District of New York. Meanwhile, Diddy has been named in 8 lawsuits accusing him of sex trafficking, sexual assault, and physical abuse. The most notable case was brought by his ex-girlfriend, Cassie, which they quickly settled. We reached out to rest for Diddy and Daphne. They declined to comment. Some of those 8 lawsuits that he have pending right now, listen, I'm 100% where if someone was done wrong, victims need to be heard and people need to be brought to justice if they did a crime or they violated someone. Out of those 8 lawsuits, some of them, there's a little struggle in there. I don't doubt that something happened, but the struggle for me is it seems like they were willing participants. And then at some point, they saw Cassie got a payday and they're like, let me see if I can go get mine. Not saying that's all of them. I'm saying some of them. But listen, guys, chat with me in the comments. And when I get an opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the authorities issuing a subpoena for a hotel in Miami. Do you think they are coming closer to bringing criminal charges against them, or do you think this struggle is real? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, and I'll see you on the next video.